Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It is Tuesday, May 6th, 2014, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, the IRS is ready to expand surveillance of offshore accounts. And a woman celebrates her abortion on YouTube.
It's all sold, totally fake, clearly, for young girls and young women watching. Oh my gosh, pregnant, gross, bad. That's what she's saying with her body language. There's one thing to do. It's magic. It was great. It's so much fun.
Well, if you're ever wondering just how sick and twisted things have gotten in America, you really need to look no further than YouTube. You can find all kinds of disturbing videos there. But this next one takes the cake. A woman posted a YouTube video of herself having an abortion. This was, I am not kidding. She is a counselor at a New Jersey abortion clinic. She celebrated her own abortion by posting it on YouTube in order to treasure her special memory. Emily Letts recorded the lead up to the procedure and some of the abortion itself as part of an effort to inspire women who may feel guilty or scared about terminating their pregnancies. Now, I can't watch this video myself. It is up on INFOWARS. It's pretty infuriating, but her quotes are right there. She's gone on to do some other interviews after the fact, and she says she didn't do this because her life was in danger. She did it as a retroactive form of birth control. The baby's father never once mentioned in this video, but it's sick. I mean, she's smiling the whole time. She lets out a giggle, in fact, and she states at the end of it, she's like, "Yay, cool! I feel good. I'm a lucky girl." I mean, this is the sick, twisted video that this girl posted up on YouTube, and she says that she held onto an ultrasound as a memento of this special memory. It's always going to be a special memory to her of the day that she went and killed her unborn child for the world to see. Now, regardless of how you feel about abortion, if you're pro-choice or whatnot, I understand it's not a black and white issue. This is insane. This is sick. This is basically telling women to celebrate this killing of your babies, killing of your unborn children, that it's something to celebrate and something that you can be happy and proud about. She goes on to say, "I'm not sad at all. I don't feel any guilt." And that's basically what she wanted to do, was empower people and let them know this can be a positive procedure. She goes on to say 1 month afterward, "I don't feel like a bad person. I don't feel sad. I knew that what I was going to do was right. It was right for me and for no one else." And of course, by that, she especially does not mean that it was right for her unborn child. So basically, this video is just the precipice of this sort of thing becoming the norm for our society, that this being totally selfish and just not having any regrets and not being somber about a procedure such as this is just, it's okay. That means that we're liberated and we're just moving forward as women, right? It's this twisted sense of reality. Now, it turns out that Emily Letts is not just an abortion counselor, she's also an actress. So now this is causing a lot of people to say, well, did she do this for attention? Because today reality is all about how many likes you can get on your social media account and how many fans you can get. She was an actress. Her Let's most recent movie was a horror flick centered around, you guessed it, the slaughter of children. So people are asking, was this just a publicity stunt? Did she put this together herself in an effort to get noticed, or was someone else put her up to this? Was it entirely of her own making? For fame, did she want to be the first woman out there to put out a shock video on YouTube? I mean, what's the next viral video going to be? I find it really hard to believe that she just did this to make abortion cool and trendy and acceptable, because if that's true, then that's really sick. That's very sick. Now, we've already reported, on how fame has become a sickness. It's absolutely a sickness. People will stop at nothing for a little bit of notoriety. Apparently, even posting YouTube videos of them killing their unborn children. Well, she wanted to be famous, and now the world will know who she is, and I can't wait to see in the coming weeks. I'm sure she's going to be hailed as some folk hero for the women's liberation movement. But where are these so-called liberated women when it comes to the nearly 300 missing Nigerian girls? They were kidnapped. Their families are calling out for them to be rescued. It's gained international attention, and now the U.S. is going to be sending a team to help find these kidnapped girls. Now, it was about 270 Nigerian girls. They were kidnapped from a school in April by a militant Islamic group, Boko Haram. They have claimed responsibility for taking these young women as punishment for them receiving a Western education. Now, the leader of this group says he will sell the girls at market. He's going to sell young women as young as 9 years old because, according to his religion, these women are slaves. And according to Sharia law, these girls, they just need to go get married. And that's what he says. So he's going to be selling them off. Now, the U.S. has announced it's going to be deploying a team to help locate these missing girls. And more young women are actually being kidnapped daily. People are calling for drones to be used to help in this search. But what this article fails to mention, and it makes clear that it's biased reporting, is that Boko Haram is a militant, radical Islamist group. They just call them a militant group, but they're radical Islamists. They're calling for Sharia law. They say they're not going to stop until this is implemented. But the article fails to include that very important detail. That's what this whole kidnapping is all about. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we're hearing silence from the feminist groups, because nobody wants to insult a religion or a culture that we don't understand entirely. Now, it's because of this, we don't want to be culturally insensitive, or we don't want to be called racist or bigots. But is it bigoted of me or racist of me to think a Satanist shouldn't sacrifice a child because that's their religion? No, we all know that that is wrong. So it is time for people to start speaking out about these things that are clearly abhorrent. So they don't want to seem, non-trendy by insulting someone's culture, so they remain silent on truly abhorrent crimes against women. Where is the Ban Bossy campaign with respect to this? It's a sickening kidnapping by 270 plus girls. Their families are crying out for help. Rhiannon Coslet of The Guardian calls for Western feminists to stand in solidarity. Rather than confronting this casual sexism, which is what they're prone to do, stand up against something as profoundly revolting as this issue of slavery, forced marriage, and child rape. We have to insist that something be done about these women who have no voices. We, as the truly free and liberated women of the West, it is our duty and our responsibility to stand up for these women and to call it like it is. This is not right. But instead, the liberated women are posting YouTube videos of themselves and their downward spiral. It is insane. Apparently, it only works to speak out against wrong if it fits the political agenda of the day.
The recent comments of the NBA's Donald Sterling have sparked much controversy. And while I don't agree with Sterling, the most interesting thing following his leaked phone conversation isn't that he's been asked to relinquish the LA Clippers. It's that it set a precedent to go after anyone in the league for seemingly any reason. Doug Davos, whose family owns the Orlando Magic, is now being targeted for his support of traditional marriage, with pundits and activists alike deeming him a homophobe. Seems like the naysayers are much more concerned with thought crimes than physical crimes, such as U.S.-funded jihadists crucifying Christians in Syria. In theory, this could have been an international news story if the jihadists had recorded themselves talking about the crucifixion instead of actually carrying it out. And finally, the thought crime in Oklahoma of someone having the audacity to donate the 10 Commandments to state capitol grounds was so offensive to devil worshippers in New York that they want to place a, quote, child-friendly Lucifer at the Capitol grounds as well. A member from the Satanic Temple says that one could even sit on the statue's lap and take a selfie with Baphomet. So it's not okay when Christians do it, but if Luciferians do it, then it's just fine. You can find more reports at INFOWARS.com.
And while so many people are calling to oust racists in the NBA, why aren't a lot of people calling to get rid of our criminal, corrupt police force? One of the biggest criminal cases coming out of the Occupy protest in New York City was decided yesterday in a guilty verdict for Cecily McMillan. She got no justice, no fair trial, and her case just underscores the public's acceptance and this normalization of police brutality. Now, Cecily, she can face up to 7 years in prison for this. She was found guilty of felony assault against Officer Grantley Bovell. She was one of 70 protesters who gathered in Zuccotti Park to mark the 6-month anniversary of the start of the Occupy movement. There are thousands of pictures online. You can see police moved in. They were heavily armed. They went to arrest nonviolent protesters. Chaos ensued. Now, the cop claimed that McMillan elbowed him in the face as he attempted to arrest her. McMillan and her defense team claimed that Bovell grabbed her right breast from behind, causing her to instinctively react. But jurors weren't allowed to see the photos of the chaos. They didn't see the cops in riot gear. They didn't hear anything about the police violence. To the jury, the hundreds of police batons, helmets, fists, and the violence that was there, it was invisible. The jury was only presented a close-up of McMillan's elbow. They didn't show Bovell's eye, and this was how they were asked to determine who was the violent one. The prosecutors and the judge prohibited them from zooming out to show the chaos, and despite thousands of photographs and evidence, because journalists were there, journalists and innocent bystanders were punched, kicked, tackled, and beaten over the head. But despite all of that photographic evidence, the jury found her guilty based off of one picture of her elbow. So this is wrong on so many levels, but it just goes to show how brainwashed the public is into just accepting that police violence and violent police and the way they react to protesters and nonviolent protesters is just normal. It's just another day on the job. Thankfully, some people in Albuquerque are absolutely fed up with the police violence there. They, in fact, stormed the city council meeting there in Albuquerque, and 40 people attempted to arrest the police chief on Monday. They said, this is no longer your meeting, this is the public's meeting. So they are fed up with how out of control things have gotten in there at Albuquerque. We've reported on how criminal and corrupt the police force is there. Those people have had enough. We will report more on that as it develops. Now, in other propaganda, the White House has released its 840-page National Climate Assessment. And surprise, there are dire warnings involved here. They said there's going to be coastal flooding in the Northeast, water shortages in the Southeast, crippling droughts, heat waves all over the Midwest, and all sorts of other planet-altering changes all across the United States. White House advisor John Podesta says, if you want to argue about climate change, you're siding with the polluters. See, so now you're not even allowed to question the official story. You're just a polluter. And critics of the administration and the actions it has taken thus far on climate change argue that the report is little more than an attempt to spook the American people into supporting the president's controversial agenda. Now, I take offense to that because I really do care about the planet, but I absolutely question what their administration is trying to do about it. They're not trying to actually fix the problem. If that was the case, Harry Reid's building a bunch of solar farms there in Nevada. If they'd actually just turn them on and let the sun do its job. You know, once you get past the initial cost of building the solar farms, it's free after that. But they're not really concerned about that. They don't really want to stop this dire consequences of this global warming because we've got the fix. That's why, you know, they've got this huge push now to tax people who have solar energy on their homes. Basically, there was this huge push for solar energy because it's going to save the planet and it's going to be what we need to bring down the carbon emissions. But then all of a sudden, it was a little too effective. It wasn't bringing in enough tax revenue. So now they had to start taxing these homes. Now Oklahoma is hitting their people with a solar tax.